Everyone's doing well. This morning, lovely looking day. Grass is looking great. I always say I'm really sorry about that. It's just habit. If you see over here, I don't know if the camera can see it, but the roses are just looking absolutely fantastic. There are so many buds coming up on it finally. First time in a long time that we've had roses in the garden, and next year I'm going to be doing roses pretty much everywhere that I can do them. So over here, and creating a lovely, probably climbing roses as well, and climbing over the pergola. I had a comment from one of my subscribers, Lee, about doing how do you do watering in your garden, how do you get down the appropriate levels of water. There's loads and loads of different ways of doing it in terms of the science of, putting water down in your grass. You can put wee cups out everywhere and measure out how much water you're putting on your garden, etc. But what I just tend to do is I tend to do deep watering maybe twice a week, and then when I'm doing like an overseed or a brand new lawn, I'll be doing a light watering maybe 3 to 4 times a day, just to keep that seed wet through the germination period and helping it along as it develops. But at the moment, because this lawn is pretty much as developed as possible now in the season, I have reseeded along these edges around here, all the way along to the far end over there. They're actually now all starting to grow in really well. So what I'll do is I'll show you what I use to help with the watering, and you've seen maybe on one of the other videos I did about watering earlier this year. I upgraded my tap into 22mm copper and 19mm hoses, etc., to get the volume of water and the pressure of water I needed. And with those connections I can do basically 2 oscillating sprinklers at the same time. So I tend to probably put down, because of the shape of the lawn here, I can't do them all in one go, and that's why I'm going to be doing my irrigation system next year, so that I can have sprinklers all round the garden, and then I can just turn them on, and it gives an equal coverage across the lawn at the optimal times of the day, which is in the morning. So early in the morning, so that the water gets down there, it doesn't evaporate, and it absorbs into the root zone where it desperately needs it for these lawns. You want the lawns to go in search of the water rather than top watering, and that produces a weaker lawn. If you want a strong, healthy plant, it needs to go down into that root zone and look for that water, and that will encourage you to have a great lawn. So I've got 2 Gardena oscillating sprinklers. They're both got the Profi connectors on the end here, which are these connectors. The standard ones that come with these 2 or these sprinklers is basically a 15mm or 13mm standard Gardena hose lock connector that you would use on normal hoses. But I'm using 19mm hoses, and I'm using the Profi connectors, and the Profi connectors are much bigger in terms of their end connections here, so they get much more water volume through them, and I can water 2 areas at the same time. So these are oscillating sprinklers, and what's really good about them is that I'll just put this one down, they are really good quality. I haven't had any leaking out of them so far. Sometimes if you buy cheaper quality stuff, they tend to leak. But what I really like about them is that they have these wee rubber heads here. So these rubber heads keep the water jets kind of focused. The middle section of connections from sort of here to here, they are fixed, but these outer 4 holes on either side, they actually move left and right to give you a much bigger arc, and you can control the arc and where the water goes, and that's done by these little levers here. So you can move these levers left to right, and you can see that the little things here are moving left to right to adjust. So you can make them narrower, you can make them wider. So I tend to have these depending on where I'm putting them, I don't want everything to get watered, so I adjust them accordingly on both sides. So we'll start on the widest point, we'll see what we get with that. The other thing is this control here. This controls the left to right in terms of the arc that this creates. So as the sprinkler goes from this side to this side, this here controls how far that bends left and right. And then on the top here you've got a valve that controls the water flow. So if you turn it that way 90 degrees, that turns it off, and then if you turn it this way, then it turns it on. So it gives you a bit of control right at the head, considering when you're maybe trying to position it, you want to make sure that you're not getting soaked. So that's a good place to start with. So what we'll do is we'll put the sprinkler over on this side, and I'll put another one over on this side, and you'll see everything kind of coming together. So what I'll do is I'll go and put this around here. So I've got two sprinkler heads here. I have this big hose here, which is, you'll not be able to see it too much, but there's a big connection piece here. So this is the Profi connector at the end here, and the Profi, this is called the tap connector, or Profi tap connector that's on this side. And you just connect the two together, and that creates the connection point. I've got this valved at the end as well, so there's a valve on this end, and I can turn this on and off to run the water. So what I'll do is I'll position it where I think I need it to be, trying to keep the hose off of the grass, because I don't want the grass to get marked or so. And then I'll put it where I think it needs to be, so probably about here. So I've got the first one in position, and then what I need to do is I need to get my secondary hose, which will come out from the other side. So my secondary one, so you can see here, Profi tap or Profi hose connector connects into the Profi connector here and makes a connection. That's it done there. I'll adjust these out accordingly, and then I can bring this out into the garden. So with the two hoses in place, they both go back to the big tap connector at the other end. I'll put a picture up on screen now of what that looks like. And you just turn that connection on, and then the two of these will go to town. So let's see this in action. So you can see now in place, I've got the two oscillating sprinklers on, and there's enough water pressure between the two of them and the tap connection and the 22mm that I can run both of these side by side at the same time. So in essence, I'm just laying down the water. I'm just putting down an appropriate level of water to water this grass. So I'll get this section done, and I'll get that section done over there, and I'll leave that on for about 15 to 20 minutes per section. So these two sections, 15-20 minutes, and then these two sections over here I'll do another 20 minutes, and that will then give me an appropriate level of water down into the soil. Now, the other thing that you could do to make it easier for the penetration of the water to get down in root zone, so you've got two different ways of dealing with that. Method number one is to use a wetting agent and spray that down, foliar application down onto the lawn first, and that will help the lawn to absorb the water down into the soil layer. It breaks the surface tension and it allows that water to get down there quicker and doesn't run off the surface. The second thing you can do is do aeration on your lawn. And there's different ways of aerating the lawn. I've done a video on a short earlier in the year where I did aeration, hollow tine aeration, which is a machine that goes down with a sort of spike and pulls out a plug, and that plug then deposits these little soil plugs all over your grass, and you can either leave it in your grass to break down over a period of time, or you can sweep it up. I would suggest that if you've got clay soil and the like, is to scoop them all up and put them in a compost pile, something like that. If you've got sand, a sandy subsoil, then you can leave them on the surface of the grass, and they'll just break down over time, especially if you're going to be doing levelling, like using sand, sport sand to level your lawn. That's a better way of doing that, because that can help just add those nutrients that came out from the plug into the surface of the soil again. So it's really important that you make sure that you either put a wetting agent down or you spike your lawn. If you do that on a regular basis, then that's going to open up the canopy, it's going to open up the soil layer, and when you water, that's where that water's going. It's going to go down into that root zone, and it's going to get where the grass needs it to be. So in essence, having something like this going constantly back and forward, having this lawn watered, especially if you're in an area that doesn't have a hosepipe ban. This year in the UK, there's a lot of regions of the UK that have suffered because of the hot temperatures. Reservoirs have kind of went right down, and prioritising human health over garden health is more important. But if you're not in an area that's affected by a hosepipe ban, then I would suggest that you use the water that you have, but use it in the best way possible. So having an oscillating sprinkler means that you're putting down the right amount of water down into that grass and helping that grass to survive in hotter temperatures and hotter climates. And don't feel bad about it. If you're using your water in the right way and at the right times, then don't feel uncomfortable using it in your garden. But if you want to look at the sustainability picture, have a look at things like water butts. Collect rainwater from your roofs, bring that into water butts, and then water with a watering can around your grass as you can and as best you can. You can use grey water from baths and showers, etc. Gather those up and save yourself and save the environment. That's what I'll be doing next year. I'm going to be getting a large container put round at the side of the shed, about a 6,000 litre water container, and I'm collecting water off the gutters and diverting that into that tank, and I will do my best to be as conservative and sustainable as possible. As I said on my channel, I want to do everything as sustainable as possible, so this is the best way to do it. Get the water down, your grass will thank you for it. If you're putting this level of water down on a consistent basis, your grass is going to have a great response. It already looks greener when you're running the water. You can see that water permeating across the surface. And if you feed your lawn on a regular basis like I'm doing, I'm now using my Compo Expert Basfoliar Ferrotop SL liquids to get that lovely lush colour on the surface of the lawn. And then I've got the Florinid Twin Turf, which is a 25-8 NPK with trace elements, and it has the Bacillus SP and the E4 CDX mixtures in it for prolonged root growth and disease resistancy. So getting that product down, you need to keep on top of the watering as well, so that helps that product respond better. 100% what you need to do to keep your lawns looking in tip-top condition. So I'll just keep these going left and right. As I said, 15 minutes roughly speaking I'm going to be leaving these in place for, and then I'll move them into this side of the garden and this side of the garden, and that's really going to help maintain that going forward, that healthy sward going forward. Deep watering twice a week for 20 minutes, and make sure that you do, if you can, some aeration to get that product down into that root zone where it's needed, instead of running off the surface and then wasting all that water that you're putting down. So I'll leave it there, but happy gardening. Enjoy the weather where you can, because in a couple of months we'll all be complaining that we can't get out in our gardens and moaning that the weather's not great and everything like that. So try and get out in your garden, spend some time out there, do some weeding, cut your lawn, look after your plants, feed your plants. It's good for the mental health and it's good for your body as well. So I'll see you again on another video. Until then, thanks very much for everyone who's clicking on like, subscribe and leaving me comments. It really means a lot to me, guys. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a lovely day wherever it is you are watching my videos. Catch you in the next one. Cheers.